All right, we're back, and I asked you before the break, before the last video, to download and install Visual Studio Code. And one of the questions I had was, so why am I using Visual Studio Code, and why not use Brackets or Sublime or something, or even Visual Studio as an example? Well, because Visual Studio Code is great. It works great with the MeanStack, right? It gives you good support, and because we're going to learn TypeScript today as well, a little bit of TypeScript as we go. And if I start you with TypeScript, I found this: if I introduce TypeScript from the beginning with JavaScript, by the end, you're comfortable with it. If I introduce it in the middle, you're screwed. Like it's that crazy, right? So I can't do it. I used to do it at the end because it adds additional complexity to what we're doing here. But on the good side is, what it does is it helps you get code hinting for Node, right? Which, by the way, no other editor gives you as good code hinting as an editor that supports TypeScript, which Visual Studio Code does, and it's cross-platform. That's the reason. You could certainly use Visual Studio, like full-blown Visual Studio 2013, 2015, and it would still support TypeScript, and you can still do Node and all that kind of stuff. It just becomes more clunky to do, and nobody uses it in the industry. No one uses like Visual Studio, like a full-blown version of Visual Studio to do mean, pretty much. Everyone uses something like this, like a Brackets or a Visual Studio Code or something like that. Some people like to use Atom, and by the way, you can use whatever editor you want. If you're really hooked on Brackets and you want to do that, and if you can make TypeScript work for you, or you don't want to use TypeScript, this is you. You're the developer, right? So you're the one that has to choose your tool set, not me, right? I'm also going to offer you some tools that are online. So there's going to be some tool sets that are not local to your system. If you just log in and use the tools, you're good to go. And they're out there for you. So please grab this and use it. It's pretty cool. And we'll talk about how to use it from the get-go. So that's one. The other thing is your system has to support Node. So before we get ready with this, I need you to download and install the latest version of Node. All right. So if you don't have Node installed, where do you get it from? So Node.js. And what is Node? Think about JavaScript on the server. And why would you do JavaScript on the server? We're going to have a whole understanding of what Node.js is next week. We're going to talk about Node over the next couple weeks. But really, at the end of the day, you need to have Node installed. And there's two versions you can download. And hold off. If you're a Mac user, hold off for a second. Don't download this yet if you're a Mac user. And there's a reason for that. Okay, so I'm hearing that if you try B230 user for username and password, all lowercase, B230 user, you should be able to get in. B230 user. Are you in? Sorry about that. There was just some technical difficulties that we're going through right now. And for those people who are watching online, I want to make sure that that we're up to par with what we're doing. Okay, so again, there's two versions. There's two versions that we're going to use for Node. One of them is, if you notice, a version 4.24. And up to recently, and I'm talking recently, like as in September, it was a version 0.12. Okay, so how do we go from 0.12 to 4.24 and then 5.41, which is stable? I use 5.41, and I recommend that. For Mac users, please don't download it from here. I highly recommend not to. And the reason for that is because if you have a Mac, who has a Mac in the class? Anybody? So that way I don't have to waste my time talking about it. You do? Yeah. Okay. Are you the only one?
I think so.
Don't use this link. Otherwise, you're going to have to use sudo for everything. Okay? Use Homebrew. And there's a way to do it through Homebrew. So Google install Node.js via Homebrew or through Homebrew. And that's the way to do it. And the reason for that is if you don't use Homebrew for a Mac or a Linux machine, as an example, what ends up happening is you have to keep on putting your super user credentials every time you load an NPM module, which is a pain in the ass. I'm sorry to say it that way, but they're just not good. If you're a Windows user, you don't have to worry about it. Please download version 5.41 stable, all right, and you're good to go, all right? So that's one of the downloads you need. So that's Node. Without Node, you don't have NPM, and without NPM, we can't load any modules. So you really need to have this, right? This is kind of required. The other thing, and this part of what you're doing for your lab today is you need GitHub, right? So if you go to github.com, and I'm going to go there with incognito mode for a second so you can see what it looks like if you haven't signed up. So GitHub. It looks like this when you sign up, right? And it's a free sign up if you sign up for GitHub. You, of course, it's a free repository. And who knows what GitHub is, by the way? Anybody? Some of you know, some of you don't know. Well, think about GitHub as a, there's 3 reasons to use GitHub. Okay, I'm going to talk about this. And I'm going to test you on this next week. So take note of what these reasons are. Collaboration. I want to communicate and collaborate online with somebody, right? I want to share my files and work with somebody else online. Collaboration is one of the reasons. A backup of your files, all right? So you actually have an image of your files online. That's 2. And the third one is version control, which is probably the main one that everyone uses it for, right? Like how many people have ever worked on a project in the class, and then you're working along, everything's great, you make a change, and it's done, it's broken, and you can't find out why it broke. Everyone probably has done that, right? If you're a developer. But with GitHub, you can step back. By the way, were you guys able to log in with B230, B230? So it's B230 user, B230 user, right? You tried that? Lowercase?
Wait, is the username B230 user?
Yes.
Okay.
All lowercase. And? Didn't work. Anyone else have success? B230 user? No. No dice. All right, there we go. So, GitHub, those 3 reasons. And I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you on, about GitHub next week. All right, so next week I'm going to say, what are the 3 reasons to use GitHub? This is the reason, right? So you need to sign up. And it's part of your first lab. You need to sign up, create a repository, put something up into that repository, and then take the link for that new repository and put it into a text file and upload it to Blackboard. And if you look up on Blackboard for your first lab, it tells you what you need to do. All right? It's just the link. The file that you put up, you can put up a simple text file. I don't care what it is. It doesn't have to be very complex. As long as you show that you know how to upload to GitHub, I'm good. Everything I do is going to be shared with you on GitHub, and everything you do is going to be shared with me on GitHub, right, for this semester. So that's the required technology for this semester. So that's why I'm paying you in advance 2%, right, to make sure that you do it, right? Okay, so you need GitHub, and you also need GitHub to work locally on your machine. So that's going to be a challenge for us, right? So how do I make GitHub work locally? Well, there's a couple of tricks that I recommend. For Mac users, you're good to go. If you're a Mac user or a Linux person, who's a Linux person in the room? Anybody? No. Okay, good. So we only have 1 Mac user, the rest Windows. Hey, we're in lots of trouble. Okay, if you're a Windows person, you need to install Git somehow, right? And there's 2 ways to do that. You can go to desktop.github.com and download the desktop tool. And the desktop tool comes with a version of Git Bash, which is a local console that does Git. Oh, this is bad. Okay, try, seriously now, ladies for the username.
What?
Don't ask, all right? So I was asked to do ladies, and then the password is learning code, all lowercase. It's for a nonprofit that we use this room for, okay? So ladies, username, learning code. Is that working? That's great. You good?
What was it?
Ladies.
Yeah.
It works? We're good, thanks. We're good. Thanks. Okay, so yeah, so GitHub, right? What it does, it comes packaged with an Git bash, which is a command line tool. And even if you don't have Windows working properly for you, and by the way, chances are, I'll tell you right now, 60% of you, at the minimum, 70% of you, when you download and try and install GitHub locally on your machine, won't work. Just telling you in advance, right? So just not, don't be disappointed if you can't make it work from the get-go. We need to change the environment variables on all of your machines, right, in order for this thing to work. And there's a bit of a setup in order for us to do that. So don't feel upset about it. It's just part of a requirement. Git doesn't work. Node doesn't work. We're dead in the water in this course. Okay? We need both those two things to work nicely. So let's get those going, right? So let's start with those parts. I'm going to stop this recording, and I'm going to spend the majority of the next half an hour or so going around and making sure you guys are good. There are some tricks to getting GitHub working, all right? And the trick is you need to go into, if I was to go to Stack Overflow and look for Git, how to get Git working on command line, how to get Git working on command prompt, which is what you need to do. There's a really cool Stack Overflow article somewhere in here to make it work. Now, there's two places to get Git. One is through this Git desktop. The other one is if you do it directly. That didn't give me what I wanted. So you can download. If you go download Git, right? You can download Git as a separate option, component, right? Which again doesn't fix everything. If you download this thing, it does help, but it doesn't do what you want to do. You still have to set up the environment variables. So what are these darn environment variables that I speak of? Right. Well, let me just show you how it is. I'll resume my virtual machine for a second, and we'll go into Windows 10, and I'll show you where that is. Right. So it's a bit of a challenge for you to get it going for the most part. It doesn't matter if you have your own machine or if you're using the school's machine. You may have difficulty doing this thing. So bear with us when we do it, right, together. All right, so here we are. And the way to do that is there's two things you need to do. First, if you're using a Windows 8 machine or Windows 7, you may have to go into Control Panel. So if I go into, one day when this turns on, Control Panel, and forgive me, I'm using a virtual machine, right? So if I go to Control Panel, on Windows 7 and 8, I believe it's called Files and Folders. You have to go in there, and you have to expose. If I go on Windows 10, it's File Explorer options. That's the long way to do it. There's a shortcut. You have to go to View, right, and expose Show Hidden Files and Folders and Drives. If you don't do that, then you can't see your app data folder. And if you can't see your app data folder, you can't navigate to where Git is housed when you download the Git tool from GitHub. Okay? So you need to expose your file folders. Who does not know what I'm talking about? Right, please put up your hand, because if you can't do this piece, then that'll stop you. So you need to expose your files and folders, show hidden files and folders. Once you do that, you need to go to your computer. And again, there's different ways to do this for Windows 7, Windows 8. If I search for advanced, if I start typing advanced, and I want to go to advanced system settings, which is where I want to go, right? Advanced system settings will take me to this dialog box. That's what I want to see, right? And I want to go into environment variables here in the dialog box. You'll have to do this more than one time, because we're also going to do the same thing with MongoDB when you run it locally, right? So whether you do this now, or whether you do it later, right, you're still going to have to do this, right? It's part of our install, if you will, right? So here we are. We've got this going, and in the path, there's usually two path variables, one that's up here and one that's down here. If I double click, it'll bring up the entire path, which is this long string of characters, right? And I've already got mine in here, if you notice, right? It's got app data, blah, blah, blah. Let me show you where to get that path. And the way to add it in is you have to put a semicolon at the end of the path. Do not wipe that path out, please. That would be very bad for you, right? It means your command prompt wouldn't work at all, right? And that's bad, right? So put a semicolon at the end of the path, and then from there, what you want to do is you want to navigate to C:users, your username, mine's Tom, right? And you're going to go to app data, local, oh yeah, we're still going. GitHub, portable Git, right? Portable Git. And under portable Git, you're going to see command, cmd. And under there, you're going to see the git exe executable, right? You need this path in the command line, right? This path here up here, it has to go into your environment variable. So I right-click here, and I copy the address as text, and I go back over here after the semicolon and paste it in. And press OK, 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 and you're done. That's the way you do it. I'm going to show it to you again, right? But I'm just saying this is the thing you need to do. And you're going to have to do this with Node. And you're going to, you have to do it, I don't know about Node, but you have to do it definitely with Mongo and definitely with this. And why is this way? Windows machines don't have the same terminal capability that other machines have, like Linux and Mac. And so we need a little bit more work to get going. But as soon as we get it going, you're on par. You're good to go. So this is just the pain we have to go through for this first day, and then afterwards we're good to go. Now I've tried to get it going on the machines in front of you, but as you see, you're going to get it log in. So I fully expect none of it to work in front of you, like on the school machine. Which means you're fully expecting you're going to have to download everything, as I'm telling you, to do it on your own manually. All right, so go ahead and do this now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around and make sure everyone's set up properly. So again, first step, download Visual Studio Code. That's the first thing you need to do. After you get Visual Studio Code, you're going to have to get your GitHub going. That's like next required thing, before you even Node, right? Once you get your GitHub going, I'd like you to try and get your Node.js going, right? Node.js, again, I have it somewhere else here. Here's Node.js. So Visual Studio Code, here's Node.js, and then there's GitHub. Those are the three that I want you to try out. I'm going to come around, make sure you guys can do all that, and then we'll move on, okay? It's going to be quick. It's either you can do it or you can't, right? And then we'll ask you some other questions, and I'll try and help you around. Once I get one person running and I show you one person how to do, what we're going to do is that person's going to go help somebody else, so we get this thing done. Otherwise, I'm going to spend the next 2 hours doing it with each of you, right? So if someone's got it going already and they know what to do, go to someone else who doesn't know what to do, and let's get this going. It'll be good from a teaching perspective as well. Okay, so I'm pausing the video now, and we'll be back.